What's poppin', you guys? I know it's been a minute, like a minute, probably two. But what's good, y'all? How y'all been? How y'all feeling? How's your family? How's the kids? Like, tell everybody I said hey. Like, what's good? If y'all new here, my name's Ciara, and this is Self-Made Energy, where we want for nothing because we can manifest anything. This week, you guys, I want to get into something really cute but really simple and just something to add on to my outfits just because I feel like I don't have a lot of accessories. I'm lying, I have a lot. But I want more. You can never have enough. So, I'm going to make a cute little harness bag situation. I don't know what to call it. But it's like a little harness. You throw it over your shoulders and it has little bags hanging. They're removable just in case you don't want the bags. You just want a little strappy up situation. But yeah, something real simple, just a little extra. And I do have a whole bunch of other videos that I've already recorded. I've already made like so many things, y'all. It's just editing. Oh my God, editing. Let me tell you, I have two jobs. And once I sit down to actually edit, I fall asleep. Like, it doesn't matter where I am. I could be sitting in the car. I could be sitting at the table. I could be sitting at this desk right here. And I will fall asleep. So, editing is just a struggle for me right now. I'm just tired. That's all it is. I'm just tired. But I'm trying for you guys. I'm really pushing. And I'm really going to get these videos out for y'all. Even though I'm tired. But it's tired. It's just a state of mind. A state of mind that is taking over me. But don't worry, y'all. We're going to get through this. It's nothing. But anyway, yes. I made a cute little bag and a cute little harness situation. I don't really know what to call it, so it's a harness situation for now. But yeah, let's get into the video because I feel like I've been talking forever, as usual. Let's go. Babe. I'm recording. What do you need from me, my love? What do you need? You need the colors. Okay, you guys. So the first thing I'm gonna do is find my lining fabric that I want to show on the inside. And I got this like Dalmatian print fabric. It's so adorable. I just cut out two rectangles the size of the bag that I wanted and a smaller rectangle for how wide I wanted the bag to be. And I just pinned those right sides together along one edge so they would eventually connect one long rectangle with the skinnier rectangle in the middle. I hope that's making sense. I also cut out a smaller rectangle just to make a little pocket for small things like keys or lip gloss or something. Bags need pockets. Everything needs a pocket, so I'm just adding a pocket. For the pocket piece, I just folded over the top portion 2 times and pinned it in place just so I can hem the top of the pocket once I go to the sewing machine to hem everything else. Now I'm doing the exact same thing to my fashion fabric. That's the fabric that is the outside and everyone's gonna see that part. So I just cut out 2 rectangles, the size of the bag I wanted, and also that skinnier rectangle for how wide I wanted the bag to be. And I pinned them right sides together in the same exact manner as the lining. I also cut out 1 long strip in my fashion fabric for the bag strap, but I did end up having to cut it in half because it was way too long. So just make sure you measure everything out before you cut it out so you can avoid having to make a seam in the middle, unless you want the seam in the middle, which I would prefer not to have it just for this bag in particular. But this fabric is cute anyway and it still comes out bomb, so whatever. Now I'm gonna pull out Trixie and get to sewing. So the first thing I'm gonna sew is the hem on that pocket. So you're gonna sew it with a zigzag stitch if your fabric is stretchy, or a straight stitch if your fabric is not stretchy. My fabric is not stretchy, so I just did a straight stitch along the top hem. And now I'm going to the whole lining piece, and I'm just going to do a straight stitch along all the pins that I pinned in earlier to secure the whole lining together. This is basically the inside of your bag. This is basically the whole inside. We literally didn't do anything, and the inside is almost done. Once I was done sewing everything up, I just trimmed up all my edges, made sure everything was nice and even, and I moved on to securing the pocket in place. Now, since my fabric had a very distinct pattern, I wanted to make sure the pocket lined up exactly with that pattern, because I am a stickler for patterns. I don't know what it is, but I like my patterns to match up if I can. I do try really hard. Like, you see how long this is taking me? This is a time lapse. It took me like 15 minutes to figure this pocket out. I wanted it perfect. But anyway, take your pocket, figure out how big you want it and where you want it to be. And I pinned right sides together along the bottom edge of the pocket as if it were upside down. So the fabrics are not facing the right way at this point. So when you sew it in, you can flip it up and have those raw edges already in the pocket, and it'll be finished clean. And then I'm going to fold over the sides of the pockets twice and pin them in place and do a straight stitch along the sides just to secure the whole pocket into place, and you're done with the pocket. Once I thought I was done with my lining, but I wasn't really done with my lining, I moved on to the outside of the bag, and I proceeded to do the same exact thing. So I just sewed a straight stitch right along the pins to secure the bottom of the bag to the sides of the bags. And then I trimmed all the raw edges and moved on to securing the sides of the bag once I finally figured out what shape I wanted the sides to be, which took me forever to figure that out, because at first I thought maybe I'll make it like a triangular bag and it'll be more tote shaped. And then I'm like, this fabric is too flimsy, it's gonna flop over. Maybe I'll make it a little more round. No, still not gonna hold up its shape good. You know what, let's just make a basic bitch ass bag and call it a day. So here we are making a basic rectangular bag. Anyway, at this point of me now watching this video, I realized I could have just cut one long strip for the sides of the bag and the handle of the bag and sew them in at the exact same time, and it would have eliminated so many steps. But I didn't do that, as you can see. So here I am using two smaller rectangles, and I pinned them right sides together to the sides of the bag and to the bottom of the bag. And I sewed a straight stitch along those pins and trimmed all the raw edges. But again, to save yourself some time, if you're gonna make a rectangular bag, just cut the sides and the handle at the same time. And now we're moving into the learning portion of the video. Remember way back when, in the beginning of the video, when things were better, and I jokingly said, you were almost done with the inside of your bag. Yeah, no, I was far from done. I literally had no idea what I was doing, so of course I'm learning as I go and figuring things out as I go. So here I am thinking I'll just sandwich the bags right sides together so I can finish clean off all the edges that are going to be showing. So that's what I did. And then I proceeded to remember that I didn't cut out the sides. So I cut out some sides and I pinned the sides into place. Right sides together to both sides of the lining and the bottom of the lining. And then I sewed a straight stitch along those pins, and I did the exact same thing to the other side because the bag has two sides. But of course, this is something that could have been done when I was pinning and sewing the lining earlier. But alas, I had no idea what shape I wanted this bag to be, so I went on a journey of confusion and misguided sewing. So there's a few things I've learned on this journey of making this bag. When I cut out the rectangles for the lining, I should have cut out 2 for the sides, 1 for the bottom, and then 2 for the sides of the sides, if that makes sense. I know you know what I mean. It sounds weird, but I know you know what I mean. You know, like the front, the back, the 2 sides, and then the bottom. That makes sense. I don't know why I phrased it the way I did the first time, but that's what I mean. Then I would have took all of those pieces, pinned them all right sides together so I had a nice 3D rectangle. I would have sewed a straight stitch around all of them so my rectangle would be complete and my inside of the bag would be complete. And then I would move on to the outside of the bag and I would cut out the 2 rectangles for the front and the back, then the smaller rectangle for the bottom, and then I would have cut out 1 long strip for the 2 sides and the handle in 1 piece. Then I would have sewed those all together, and then I would have took the lining and the outside of the bag and sandwiched them together, right sides together, and pinned along that top edge so that it was nice and clean finish, and then flipped it inside each other and the bag would have been done. It would have been so quick. It would have been so easy. But instead, I did all of this. But you know, I leave all my mistakes and stuff so you guys can learn from them just like I do. So here I am making another mistake. I have a very long piece of fabric, just a rectangle. This was going to be used for the strap of the bag, and I sewed it right sides together, 1 straight stitch along one side, flipped the tube out so the right sides were showing, and then I pinned and sewed a straight stitch just along that top edge of the side of the bag so the strap could be connected to the bag. And then I realized this strap is way too long. Like when I tried the bag on, the bag was to my knees. And I was like, what the heck? Like, did I even measure this? Like, this bag was just a journey for me, just like everything else. I don't know why, but everything I do is like a full-blown journey. There's no shortcuts. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, let's be realistic here. I'm self-taught, so I know there's a bunch of mistakes I'm gonna make. But she cute or whatever. Right, so moving on to the harness. The first thing I did was figure out what shapes I wanted. And my fabric is folded double layers because you're going to need at least 2 of every piece. You're going to need 2 straps for the front, a strap that goes down the middle of your back, and a strap that goes around your waist. Now, if you want bags, you're also going to cut out the pieces for the bags. But if you just want to do the harness, that's all the pieces you need for that. Now, I'm using faux leather, but this is very lightweight faux leather, so it's a little bit easier to work with. But if you're using something thick, you're not going to be able to do this the way I'm doing it. You would have to fold in the sides of the raw edges and then place the pieces wrong sides together and do a top stitch around each piece so everything can be clean finish. But because my leather is a little bit thinner, I was able to sew around the edges right sides together, and then I left an opening at the bottom to flip it right side out, and then I did a top stitch around the whole perimeter again, just so everything was nice and flat. But I definitely do want to mention that you don't have to do this particular shape. You can make it an X across the chest, you can do some circles, you could do a V. Like, there's so many shape straps that you can make. But because this is my first one, I just decided to do something real simple and basic, just so I could get the hang of it and make sure I was doing everything right. But now that I know a little bit more of what I'm doing, I'm about to start making some crazy shapes, y'all, because why not? This was so easy and it doesn't take much fabric at all. Once I was done top stitching everything, I moved on to attaching the hardware. And the hardware is also up to you. There's so many different shape hardware now that I kind of just want to mess with a different kind of vibe. Like, y'all about to see something different because this is real basic, it's real regular, it's normal. I use a 2-inch circle ring to attach the shoulder straps to the back, but I think I'm going to try a different shape next time. I also used a D-ring to attach the sides and to attach little tassels to the front, but again, I've seen some different shapes out there, so I think I'm going to try something different next time. But yeah, just to give you some ideas, there's a lot of stuff out there if you actually go look. And I don't even mean in the stores. Like, I've looked in the stores, but I've also looked online. Y'all know Amazon? Yeah, they have everything. But I digress. Back to the task at hand. In order to make the bags, I cut out one piece for the front, one piece for the back, a piece that was going to go around the bottom of the sides, around the bottom of the bag, and then back up the other side. And then I cut another piece that was going to have the zipper attached to it that would go around the top of the sides, around the top of the bag, and down the other top of the side. You'll see what I mean in a second if these words are not making much sense. But anyway, you can kind of see the bag right now, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. In order to attach the zipper, I just took the teeth of the zipper and I placed them facing outwards, right sides together onto the leather, and I did a top stitch, and then I folded the leather back so that edge would be clean, and I did another top stitch down the side of the zipper, and I did that to both sides so it would be nice and clean. Now, I don't really know what I was doing when I was finishing up the edge of this zipper, so it is so janky. Like, do you see it? It's like puffy, like it's like fluffy, and it ended up making my bag look ridiculous. I actually ended up having to go back later and seam rip the whole thing out because I was just less than impressed with how my bag looked. And I wasn't too happy with the pink zipper either. I had the pink zipper at home, but I did end up just going to the store later and getting matching zippers because it was just so bright. Like, it just stood out so much. It wasn't matching anything that I tried to put on. But in order to actually attach the pieces of the bag, you just take them right sides together, measure out where everything should be. I don't use pins in any of this because pins will leave a permanent hole in your leather. So don't use pins. If you have clips, that'll work perfectly. But I didn't have too many clips, so I kind of just eyeballed everything as I was going. And it's all right. It still came out perfectly good. So eyeballing it is fine with me. I'm sure there's people out there that'll be like, no, measure everything. But sometimes eyeballing is the best form of measurement. In the order of attaching pieces, you are going to want to make sure you attach that bottom strip that connects the front and the back first before you attach the part with the zipper, because you're going to use that bottom strip to cover the bottom closure of the zipper and make sure it doesn't poke out when you're using the bag later. Also, make sure when you're sewing all the pieces together, if you've put in any rounded edges, you're going to want to clip the edges of your seam allowance so those curves curve out nicely, because if not, they're going to be like bunchy at the seams. Once I was done clipping all my seams and trimming all the excess, I flipped the bag right side out, made sure the zipper was working, made sure my phone could fit in, and then I did the exact same thing to the other bag. And then I realized I hated them. So I began the process of seam ripping everything apart and doing the whole thing over. Once I was done seam ripping everything apart, of course there was holes left everywhere, because like I said, once you put a hole in it, it's there forever. So in order to fix that, I had to actually make my bags just slightly smaller, which wasn't an issue, and it was actually like a dotted guideline to know where to sew later. So I wasn't really mad about it. I also ended up making the bottom of my bags a little bit more rounded because I really didn't like that rectangular shape that it had. Those sharp edges were just really annoying to me. I knew they were going to stick out in clothes, so I just made it a little more rounded, and it looks so much better. Oh my god. But anyway, in order to fix the problem I had with the zipper, I installed the zipper first, and I also got an invisible zipper, so that made things a little bit easier as well. I installed the zippers the exact same way, right sides together, did a straight stitch, and then I folded the leather back and did a top stitch along both sides of the zipper. And then I cut the one long strip that was going to cover both sides and the bottom of the bag. It also wrapped around a little bit on the top as well. And that made things so much more smooth when I attached everything, because having all those separate pieces on the side really made the sides like puffy and stick out in the end. And I really didn't like how that looked. But anyway, once I attached the sides to the zipper plackets, then I attached the front and back right sides together, right along the side of the zipper. And then I folded it over and did a top stitch. So now everything around the zipper was securely top stitched down and wouldn't be puffing up later. And then once that was installed, I finally attached the front and the back to the sides. And that's when I rounded out the bottom like I told you earlier. And doing it this way made everything come out so much more smooth, like so much better. Like 10,000 times better. I can't even tell you. That last bag was just an embarrassment to everything I ever put my hands on. That bag. God, it was horrible. The video did it no justice. It was bad. Before I attached the back side of the bag to the sides, I decided to attach the little tab on the back where you would put the hardware so you can clip it to the harness and take it off later. So I just cut out a little strip of leather and I folded it over the hardware, did a straight stitch, and then I took the bottom of that little strip and attached it to the back and just did a top stitch squared right around the bottom. Nothing fancy, just to make sure it was on there and wasn't going anywhere. I went over it like 3 or 4 times. And that's it. Then I attached the sides of the bags. And I did end up taking the hardware that I installed right now off because I forgot I wanted it to be detachable and this hardware was actually going to be permanent. So I did end up having to seam rip that out and switch out the hardware later. So this project was really a lot of seam ripping, but I really love how it turned out in the end, and I'm glad I didn't give up. So just keep trying, you guys. I'm telling you, you're gonna make mistakes and it's perfectly fine as long as you never give up. I also want to mention, just because I'm staring at this harness in the corner right now, when you're attaching all the hardware to those pieces, make sure that the folded over flap is going to be on the inside facing your body, unless you want that to be showing, and then that's completely up to your discretion. But if you want it to be a hidden seam, make sure those folded over flaps are facing inward towards your body. Even if you have to try it on before you attach it, no problem. And then just fold it over and do a straight stitch. Go over it about 2, 3, 4, maybe 7 times, just to make sure it's secure, because it is going to be a little bit of pulling and tugging on it when you put it on and take it off. Also make sure when you're attaching that waist strap, it's below the shoulder strap. You don't want the shoulder strap to be underneath the waist strap because it's going to create a weird bunching and it's not going to fit you well. It's going to be like flipped inside out when you try to put it on. So make sure that waist strap is below the shoulder strap. And of course, because I'm extra, I had to paint my black hardware purple just so it could be a seamless looking purple harness. Like, why would I want a purple harness with one black strap? Like, that would drive me insane. So I just took some purple acrylic paint and I painted over it, I think 3 coats. And then I took some sealant and I painted over that 2 coats. And as you can see, I blow dried in between just to speed the process up. And that's pretty much it. I still let it sit for like 2 days just because I was nervous about clicking the teeth in and scratching the paint. So I did let it sit for like 2 days before I actually tried to click it together. And even after 2 days, I still was nervous, but I did end up clicking it together for you in the video. So shout out to me. And now I moved on to replacing the hardware that I had before. So I just seam ripped that hardware off and I put the removable hardware on and did a straight stitch in the same manner. The strip, of course, was a little bit shorter because I didn't want to sew in the exact same holes because I didn't think it would be strong enough. So I just sewed a little bit below those holes. So it did shorten it slightly, but it was nothing you could actually tell. In order to attach the clips, I needed to attach 2 D-rings to to the fronts of the straps just so they had something to attach to, because I didn't want to attach them directly to the leather. I thought that was going to be tacky. I'd rather have the extra little bit of hardware to make it, you know, a little bit more fancy. Like it was a little bit more store-bought instead of homemade. Even though I'm going to tell everybody I made it anyway. But you know, I wanted to look like I bought it from a store. Once I had my hardware attached, I cut out 2 long straps to attach the clips or the teeth or whatever you want to call them. And I just strung them through the teeth. And I strung the other end through the D-ring and flipped it over. Make sure that that flipped edge is on the inside facing your body so it's not showing. But anyway, I attached that and then I strung it through the clips and I did another straight stitch just to make sure the clips wouldn't come out. And that's pretty much it. They were attached. I did the exact same thing to the other side of the teeth, but instead of doing the second stitch to make sure it didn't come out, I left it so it could be adjustable in case you had a smaller chest or a bigger chest or a wider chest or whatever you need. I left the second set of teeth adjustable so it can slide just to fit you. I did make sure after I threaded the fabric through the teeth that I folded the edge over twice and did a straight stitch just so the teeth would never slide off fully by mistake. You can adjust it all the way to the end and never fear that it will slide off. So make sure you do that on yours as well. Now, I moved on to figuring out where I wanted to place my key hooks because I knew I wanted to have a hook just to hang my keys so they would easier to be accessed instead of being inside the bags. In order to attach the key hooks, I did the exact same thing that I did to every other piece of hardware. Took the fabric, folded it over the edge, and just did a straight stitch, went over it like 3, 4, 8, 10 times just to make sure it was secured. And then I cut it to the length I wanted it, placed it where I wanted it on the harness, folded that raw edge over, and I did another straight stitch over it 100 times just to make sure it was secured. And then literally this harness is done. I know it was a lot of steps. I know this video was a long one, but y'all, this harness though, ooh, she was worth it. I also knew I wanted to have 2 hooks just for balance, even though I wasn't sure if I wanted them to be on the same spot on each side or not. And I actually did end up doing one on the top and then one on the bottom of the other side. And I actually love how it turned out. They're definitely unbalanced and I love it because sometimes I'm all over the place and that's cool as long as you always rein it in and come back to your center. But that's it, you guys. This project is finally done and we're about to get into those final looks. But before we do that, I just want to thank you guys and tell you how much I appreciate you, because you don't know how much this means to me that you watch my videos and you leave comments and you show me love and you share with people. Like, it means the world to me. So I just want to say thank you. Now let's get into those final looks.